So I am here at the very famous Metropolitan Museum of the Arts, and I am right here. You can probably see some of the sculptures and traditional Western Sudanese masks and apparel that they wore to kind of celebrate their spirituality. I just walked through one of the exhibits here behind me at the African arts and artifacts section of the museum. And as I walked through the Ghanaian exhibits, I had a little bit of a moment. So there was this picture of a Ghanaian prince, and he was covered in what seemed to look like tattoos, but also gold playing such a big part of Ghanaian history, particularly ancient African from the Ivory Coast history. Gold was in abundance, and so, but also covered in gold jewelry, necklaces and pendants, and even a gold staff. And I thought it was just so interesting because in the last couple weeks, a pretty prominent hip-hop artist from Eritrea was murdered in Los Angeles. His name was Nipsey Hussle. And if you know anything about this guy, I mean, this guy is covered in tattoos and also very prominently wore gold chains with big pendants, which is kind of your typical kind of hip-hop in black and brown culture. Particularly in hip-hop culture, there seems to be this, resurgence of honor and respect to one another. And it's such a growing culture that dudes within the hip-hop culture, particularly black and brown, would refer to themselves as kings and queens to the ladies. And Nipsey Hussle has left just such a deep void in the inner city hip-hop community. And the reason why this is all coming up for me is because of how powerful his influence had been in the Crenshaw, South Central area of LA, where he literally was an advocate, a lover of that neighborhood, born and bred in that neighborhood, and in the eyes of many, kind of a prince and a king, someone who did well by the people because of his impact on that community. And so I thought to myself, man, how powerful is it that African Americans come from this really rich culture of royalty, honor. Okay, so behind me here is the art of Native America. The exhibit says that it is the first art focused on indigenous history in the Met, particularly within the section of American history. And I think that's a huge deal because most of American history lives in denial or kind of has an innocent view of its history, our history, particularly as it relates to indigenous culture, indigenous history, First Nations history. The word I came out of that exhibit thinking, and it just kept bouncing in my spirit, is the word integrity. There's something about Native American indigenous culture that has such deep integrity. And by that I mean they are able to take the intangible and the tangible, and they're able to take the material, the immaterial, the practical and the deeply spiritual, and they're able to meld it as one. It seems to have such deep coherence. You can't even tell the difference between what for them is immaterial and material, intangible and tangible, deeply spiritual and deeply practical. I don't know, and I think that there's something really beautiful about that. And to me, it continues to like shatter the paradigm of seeing something that is material and immaterial and see those things as opposites, but rather see them as kind of two sides of the same coin. And of course, this didn't all just come as I walked through this particular exhibit, but just as I walked through this exhibit, saw some of the things that I saw, some of the embroideries, some of the sculptures, some of the paintings, and the ideas and the concepts and the realities behind them, it just kept resounding, that word integrity, coherence. It just kept resounding, and I can deeply appreciate that. So, I hope you guys enjoy it. Peace.